Hello and thank you so much for tuning in. Today I wanted to intro a series that I'm going to be starting here on my channel called Project Palette Probation. One of my goals for this year is to go through my eyeshadow palette collection and determine which ones make sense in my collection versus which ones no longer do, and this is going to be my way of doing that. So I decided for this series I don't want there to be any hard and fast rules because I feel like I want to give every eyeshadow palette its best shot, its best opportunity to shine, and that could mean different things for different eyeshadow palettes. So for example, the first eyeshadow palette that I've used in this series is the Too Faced Original Chocolate Bar, and I've actually already completed my sort of probationary period with this palette. So if you want to see what my final thoughts are on this palette, then definitely feel free to stay tuned to this series. But I didn't want to give myself a predetermined amount of looks that I needed to do with this palette or certain ways in which I needed to use it. I just used it in different ways that I thought could give it its best shot to shine. So I created looks with this palette where it was the only eyeshadow palette I used. I used other eyeshadow palettes to kind of help anchor this palette where I thought the tones fit well together. And I also did looks where the eyeshadows in this palette weren't even the focus of the look. So in my opinion, that was sort of the range of what I could do with this palette, so I used it in all those different ways, but that may not necessarily be how I decide to use other eyeshadow palettes. Another feature of these videos that I think is going to be really important for my determination as to whether I keep these eyeshadow palettes or end up decluttering them is going to be if I feel like I can achieve the same types of looks with other eyeshadows in my collection. So another big part of these videos is going to be looking at the shades that are in these eyeshadow palettes, figuring out which ones are sort of my favorite shades or the most unique shades, and seeing if I have other similar shades in my collection with other eyeshadow palettes that are not in this probation project, or other eyeshadow singles that I have, and determining if I can do similar looks with those eyeshadows that I generally reach for more. And if that's the case, then obviously that's a major sign that it's just time to let go of an eyeshadow palette. I will also, of course, be including the different looks that I created with these eyeshadow palettes. I probably won't do demos or anything like that because those are pretty time consuming and they can make a video pretty long, so I will just sort of be featuring the different looks that I did and kind of walking through them, and you know, whether I liked them, whether I didn't like them, and also whether I feel like I can accomplish them with other shades that I have in my collection. I also thought it would be fun to include a little bit of history about each of these eyeshadow palettes in these videos and sort of like when they came out, because a lot of the palettes I'm going to be talking about are older eyeshadow palettes, and I don't know, I'm kind of a nerd for that information. I feel like it's interesting to see sort of when eyeshadow palettes came out or when certain makeup came out and sort of what was going on at the time and what was trendy at the time. So that's something that I'll probably include in my videos as well, but as always there will be timestamps, so if there are certain parts you're interested in versus others, then you can just go to those parts automatically. So basically the layout of the video is going to be first talking about the history of the eyeshadow palette, second going through the actual shades in the palette, third examining the different looks that I was able to accomplish with the palette, fourth determining what shades in my collection are like shades that are in the eyeshadow palette, and lastly letting you all know if I'm going to keep the eyeshadow palette or get rid of it. If you have any questions about this series or are doing something similar with your makeup collection, please feel free to leave a comment, and thank you so much for watching.